Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. As I said before, it will take us a long time to cover at least some basic events about the life of Yusuf, and as I said before, we can't cover everything about the lives and times of the prophets and messengers because their lives and times were full of events. But we cover what we can and we benefit from that little that we cover. So we said before that his brothers, their aim was to take him away from their father. They wanted to get the love of their father, the attention of their father. They plotted what they could. And actually, one of them said, don't kill him, just banish him. And they finally all agreed, according to the teachings of the Quran, to throw him in a dry well. And actually, what we are doing now is to divide the lessons into segments. So there is a segment that we'll be discussing today, next week another segment, another phase of his life. And actually, one of the challenges that you find when you read books written about prophets and messengers, especially prophets other than Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is difficulty with what they call mind mapping. Mind mapping is some people when they write, they follow the sequence A, B, C, D. Some others when they write, you find something which was supposed to be in number 2, it's in number 6. So you have to struggle to take this event and bring it here. You follow the sequence, which is very difficult with regard to books written about prophets and messengers, except Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So, and actually we can't blame them because in the past it was difficult for them to get information. Maybe after someone had written 2 or 3 pages, then he got another information. It was too late for him to include the information in the books. So as we always say, we do not disregard the efforts of anyone who did something good. This is not the quality of Muslims. We appreciate everything that someone has done. And if there happens to be an error, we find excuses. They always say you should find 70 excuses for your brother. They all tried their best. No one is perfect except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even messengers, they used to make some mistakes with good intentions, but Allah then would correct them because His knowledge is infinite. So we said, according to a version that is accepted by most historians, that his brothers, when they threw him into the dry well, they didn't leave immediately. They still lingered around to see what would happen. So while a trading caravan was appearing, and some of them went to draw water, and Yusuf clung on the bucket of the water, so the brothers said, he was our slave. He was absconding. He escaped from us. So they negotiated with some people of the caravan to buy him. So they said, if you want, you can buy him and take him wheresoever you want. So Yusuf ended up being sold by his own brothers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمًا مَعْدُودًا وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. Thus they sold him, his brothers, for a low price, for a few dirhams, silver coins, for they were disinclined towards him, regarding him insignificant. So their aim wasn't money. Their aim was someone to take him away so that their father's love should focus on them. So they sold him at a meager price to people of the caravan to take him away. And actually some interpretations, they said the word bakhs, it means a low price, it means something of inferior quality, and also they said it means haram. It's not allowed to sell a human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We've honored the children of Adam, whether they are Muslims or not, believers or non-believers. No one has the right whatsoever to sell a human being. These are creatures of Allah, created by Allah for a purpose. So who are you that you give yourself power and authority to sell your fellow human being? This isn't allowed in Islam. So some interpreters of the Quran said that the money they got by selling Yusuf was haram because this practice of selling human beings isn't allowed in Islam. Any believer can't entertain the idea of selling a human being. And actually this brings us to what they call al-daruratul khams. There are 5 necessities, 5 things that Islam came to protect. All the rules and regulations of Islam protect these 5 things. Can anyone mention one of them? Ad-Din, religion. Islam came to protect your religion, your way of life, your beliefs. This is why in Islam, in the Quran, there is a verse in chapter 2, verse 256, Allah says, La ikraha fi din. Let there be no compulsion in religion. So if someone chooses to be a Christian, it's his right. Someone chooses to be a Jew, it's his right. No one has any right whatsoever to force them. Our responsibility is to present Islam to them, hoping that they will see the beauty of it and join us as Muslims, believers in monotheism, in only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by doing this, we are reaping a lot of rewards from Allah. But we cannot force them. Even the Prophet ﷺ didn't force anyone to be a Muslim. So they have the right to their religion, and we have the right to present our religion to them in a good way. Actually, when we talk about the art of da'wah, we tell people that if you are talking to someone about your religion, especially if it's his first time to learn about Islam, don't compare between your religion and his. Just focus on your religion, present the goodness of Islam. This person will understand, and he himself will compare. But if you compare between Islam and the religion of that person, maybe he's a strong adherent of that religion. So he would be offended, and the next time he won't like to meet with you, or he would be embarrassed. So when you're talking about Islam, you're presenting it to someone, you don't embarrass anyone, and it's the right of each and every individual to hold his beliefs, but he will be questioned by Allah. So Allah is the one who will judge. So we have ad-din. Islam came to protect ad-din, your way of life. What else? Money. Wealth. So anyone's wealth, whether he's a believer or a non-believer, is sacrosanct in Islam. Islam came to protect your wealth. And actually, the most beautiful or the most excellent example of this is when the Prophet ﷺ was surrounded by people, by his enemies. They were determined to kill him. They had surrounded his house, choosing a very strong youth from every tribe. So they were waiting for him in the morning. When he goes out, they all attack him and kill him. So the Prophet was able to escape, yet he had the belongings of these people. Among the belongings that he was taking care of were the property of the very people who wanted to kill him. So imagine someone wants to take your life. You have your property, but he was concerned. He left Ali bin Abi Talib to sleep on his bed. One of the reasons was to return the properties of those people who had entrusted him with their money and property before he leaves. And he was justified to just go and neglect the property, because some of the people whose property he was taking care of keeping were the ones who wanted to kill him. But he never did that, even to his very enemies. He made sure their properties were safe. So we have religion, property, what else? Yes, Hudayfa? Your lineage. Actually, lineage comes under it also honor. So every child has the right to know who his father is. This is why premarital affairs, extramarital affairs are not allowed in Islam, because one of the reasons is because a child has the right to know who his father is. And actually, talking about lineage, it's honor. Islam came to preserve and protect the honor of a human being. So how can someone enjoy his honor when he has been sold as a slave? So this does not conform to the teachings of Islam. So one's honor is sacrosanct in Islam. And when you sell someone like a property, like a chattel, you are actually violating this honor. So honor of someone, whether he's a believer or not, is respected in Islam. So we have religion, we have wealth, we have honor, and then offspring. What else? We have a nafs. And actually, last week in the tafsir class, when we were talking about the word an-nafs, we said the translation isn't only the soul or spirit, it's more than that. Nafs means, does anyone know any of the connotations of the word nafs? Soul, psyche. Spirit, psyche. And when we say psyche, it's P-S-Y-S-C-H-E. Psyche. Psyche means your deepest feelings and emotions. So what you feel deep down inside of yourself, this is called psyche. So Islam protects your nafs, your soul, your body, your emotions, and everything around you, your essence, your entire being as a human being. So how can Islam say it came to protect the personality of someone, the psyche of someone, while this person is being sold to another human being as a property? So this contravenes with the teachings of Islam. And actually, scholars have gone deeper than that, that even hurting the feelings of a human being is not allowed in Islam. If a human being isn't a Muslim, for example, you hurt his feelings, you will be responsible for that. So when you buy a human being and you sell him as property, among the things that you're doing is to hurt his feelings. He won't be happy with that. He feels he's inferior. You will treat him as inferior. You will deprive him of his rights. So this isn't allowed in Islam. So Islam came to take care of an-nafs, which means body, soul, emotions, and everything connected to the well-being of a human being. So anything that violates any aspect of the well-being of a human being isn't allowed in Islam. What else? So we said religion, nafs, so which is soul, wealth, progeny and honor, and the last one is life. So no one is allowed to kill someone. So let me repeat them according to the order. Nafs, someone's body and everything related to his well-being. Then mind, then wealth and property, then progeny, offspring and honor, then religion. These 5 things came to be protected by Islam. Whether you are a Muslim or not, you are entitled to protection in matters of these things. So according to scholars, it wasn't a good practice what they did to sell Yusuf alayhi salam. But again, in Islam, if you commit a sin and you repent sincerely, Allah forgives you. They were forgiven, as we will see. So the translation is that they sold him for a few price, for a few dirhams, some silver coins, for they were disinclined towards him. So they didn't like him. They wanted to get rid of him, not because they didn't like his personality, because they wanted to get a full share of the love of their father. So Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud and Atiyah, among others, said they sold him for 20 dirhams in such that each one pocketed 2 dirhams, because there were 10. If we remove Benjamin, there were 10. So they sold him, according to Ibn Abbas and Atiyah, at 20 dirhams, and each one took with him 2 dirhams. On the other hand, Mujahid said they sold him for 22 dirhams, whereas Ikrimah and Muhammad ibn Ishaq opined that they sold him for 40 dirhams. All in all, Allah knows the best. But what the Quran says is they sold him at a low price. The aim wasn't money. The aim was someone to take him away so that they could get the full attention of their father, which, by the way, they didn't get. So the man who bought him from Egypt was among the Pharaoh's minister. So he was a high minister in the Pharaoh's cabinet or in the Pharaoh's government. And actually, by the way, when we talk about Pharaoh, it's a title, it's not the name. So anyone who was a king in Egypt during that time was a Pharaoh. It's like in the Abyssinian Empire, which does not only include Ethiopia, it included present-day Ethiopia, some parts of Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, northern Kenya. So all these territories, part of those countries, were under the Abyssinian Empire. So every emperor of Abyssinia was called An-Najashi, in English, Negus. So like every emperor in Persia was called Kisra. So it's not a name, it's a title. So, and actually we will see what was the real name of the king of Egypt at that time. So here they said, the man who bought him from Egypt was a high minister who was in charge of treasury. So actually Egypt was affluent during those days. People from around the Arabian Peninsula and other adjacent areas would come, especially during famine, to get some provisions from the king in Egypt. So it was a bread basket of that area of the world. So this man who bought Yusuf was in charge of treasury. He was a very important minister who was apportioning sustenance to the people who came claiming or complaining that they were suffering from drought. So it says, وَقَالَ الَّذِي اشْتَرَاهُ مِن مِصْرَ لِامْرَأَتِهِ أَكْرِمِي مَثْوَاهُ عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. So the man from Egypt who bought him said to his wife, tend graciously to his dwelling. In other words, prepare a good accommodation for him, give him a good apartment, so why he may benefit us or we may take him as a son. So what does it mean he may benefit us? And actually, before I go into details, according to Ibn Ishaq, he says the man who bought Yusuf from his brothers was called Malik ibn Za'ar ibn Nuwayt ibn Madian ibn Ibrahim. And actually, when I say Ibn, it means son of. So the man who bought Yusuf immediately from his brothers was called Malik. And then when he entered into Egypt, he sold him to a high minister, a high-ranking minister. And actually the Ministry of Treasury and Provisions was the most important, because here you are dealing with sustenance of human being. So he was a very important minister who bought Yusuf alayhi salam. So what were the benefits? Because here the man tells his wife, give him a good dwelling place, give him good food, good drinks, treat him well. Why? Because perhaps he might benefit us, or we will adopt him as a son. So what does it mean he might benefit us? So there are a couple of opinions. Some scholars and exegetes of the Quran, interpreters of the Quran, they said, we would sell him whenever they need a rose in order to reap a big profit. So the high minister tells his wife, take care of him. When we are in straitened circumstances, when we need money, we will then sell him and we will get a lot of profit. So he's a good trade, he's a good commodity for us. Another opinion said they would assign to him some tasks and house chores to make their life easier for them. So in other words, when he grows up, because at that time, according to some historians, he was only 7 years. He was not strong enough to perform all the chores of the house, all the duties. So they would adopt him, bring him up, and when he grows strong, then they would assign him some responsibility in the house in order for him to help them and for them to lead a comfortable life. Now, according to Ibn Ishaq, he asserted that the high minister's name was Qitfir with Qaf. And others, they say Itfir without the Qaf. So according to Ibn Ishaq, the name of that high minister was Qitfir, who bought Yusuf. And this man, according to those historians, was impotent and thus didn't have children. This is according to them. And actually, I should warn you that some of the historical events in many of the prophets that we will be discussing are from the Israeliyat, stories of the children of Israel. So what is not well clearly asserted in the Quran and in the authentic narrations of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, we can't take it seriously. We will just take it as a by the way. So these are just opinions, and some of them were taken from the stories of the children of Israel. So does anyone know what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us with regard to the stories of the children of Israel? Does anyone know what the Prophet said?
Where they confirm the writing.
So if those stories confirm what we have in the Quran, so we endorse them. We believe them as true. And if they contradict the Quran, we just don't believe in them. What else did the Prophet say? So we can just read, we can just follow them. And actually the Prophet said, do not believe them as true and do not discredit them as to belie them. So if they confirm with the teachings of the Quran and the authentic teaching of the Prophet, so it could become a source of legislation in Islam. And if not, we just take them as mere opinions. So they are not duty bound to say that, okay, I read in some of the books of Israel that Yusuf did this, so it's compulsory upon me to do that. If it does not conform to the teachings of the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, we can't follow them. And actually the Prophet says, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. So deliver the message about me even if you know one verse, or deliver the message on my behalf even if you know only one verse. وَحَدِّثُوا عَنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ وَلَا حَرَجٍ. So share with each other the stories of the children of Israel, and there is no sin in that. There is no problem in that. وَمَنْ كَذَبَ عَلَيَّ مُتَعَمِّدًا فَلْيَتَبَوَّأْ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. And whoever lies about me, tells lies about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ intentionally, then he should prepare his abode in the hellfire. This is why whenever we quote any saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, we make sure it's authentic. And if it's weak, like on Monday in the tafsir class, there is a hadith that we quoted which was weak, but we liked the meaning was okay. We say explicitly that it's a weak hadith. So don't go and quote it saying it's a strong hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ allowed his companions, and by extension allowed us to share the stories of the children of Israel. Perhaps there could be something that we can learn. So according to Ibn Ishaq, he asserted that the high minister was called Qatfir. He's the one who bought Yusuf, and he was impotent and thus didn't have children. When I say impotent, I think all of you know the meaning. Yeah. So, and his wife, some of them say his wife was Ra'el, others say she was Zuleikha. So we will see. Was tender, soft-hearted, beautiful, and well-fed. So on the other hand, this is a man with authority, but he can satisfy his wife according to some opinions. And on the other hand, she is beautiful, kind-hearted, well-fed. So all this happened out of Allah's kindness and grace, in that he wanted Yusuf to benefit himself and others, both in this world and in the hereafter. So all the things that happened, as we said before, Allah says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ بَالِغٌ أَمْرِهِ وَاللَّهُ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's purpose will come to pass. Allah's aim will come to pass. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has had predestined will come to happen. So Yusuf being sold in Egypt as a slave, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was preparing a lot of good to happen to him and to happen to the people of Egypt and those who were going there looking for sustenance. There was wisdom in it. And actually there is a lesson for us, as we said before. Some scholars say that slaves on the day of judgment will not have any excuse of not implementing their faith, saying, you know, that I was just a slave, I didn't have freedom. Yusuf alayhi salam was a slave, yet he was a grandson of a prophet. He was a son of a prophet, grandson of a prophet, great grandson of a prophet. So all this happened out of Allah's kindness and grace, in that he wanted Yusuf to benefit himself and others, both in this world and in the hereafter. So when he was appointed, for example, in charge of treasury, he was making sure every person got his share. He didn't discriminate against anyone. He didn't mistreat anyone. He didn't take bribes. Even his own brothers who had wanted to get rid of him when they were suffering from famine, they finally resorted to him and he did help them. So he didn't bear grudges. He didn't want to revenge. He was full of forgiveness. So he went on to say, this is Ibn Ishaq, again, he continues, the man who bought Yusuf was called Itfir. So others said Qatfir, others Itfir, Ibn Ruhib. And the king of Egypt at that time was Ar-Rayyan ibn al-Walid, who was huge in size and powerful. So as we said, Pharaoh is just a title, and the name here of that king per se, who was ruling Egypt when Yusuf was sold there as a slave, was Ar-Rayyan ibn al-Walid. So Ibn Ishaq wanted to say that the high minister's wife was called Ra'el bint Ramabel. Difficult names. However, other historians said that her name was Zalikha. And actually in some Arabic books, or some people pronounce it as Zulaykha. But some others, and actually these are among the things that I had to call someone an expert, because some other books, especially in English, they write it Zulaykha. Zulaykha. In Arabic, it's written like this, Zalikha, without ta' marbuta. Now, if it has ta' marbuta, then we could say it is Zulaykha. It's called Ismu Tasghir. So, because there is no ta' marbuta, many scholars say it's better to pronounce it as Zalikha, not Zulaykha. So, some of you in English books, you might find it written like this, and you hear Mr. Hassan pronouncing it as Zalikha. I used to be confused. I had to call a scholar who is an expert in the Arabic language to explain this. So it's pronounced as Zalikha, not Zulaykha. And actually some historians, they say the word Zalikha is just a nickname. So her real name was Fakka. So, on the other hand, Al-Tha'labi, another historian, narrated from Ibn Hisham al-Rifa'i that her name was Fakka bint Yanus. So the woman, the wife of the high minister who bought Yusuf and who ordered her to take care of him, give him good accommodation, good food, good beverages. Her name was Fakka bint Yanus. The most apparent opinion, according to Ibn Kathir, is that Zalikha was her nickname. So her nickname was Zalikha and not a name. And actually, many people grow up with nicknames. Sometimes rulers, they grow up with names that actually their original names are not that. For example, Abu Huraira. How many Muslims know only the name Abu Huraira? And actually, it isn't his name, it's a nickname. Does anyone know the real name of Abu Huraira? Abdul Rahman ibn Sakhr. So he has been famous by a nickname. And all of you, you know why he was called Abu Huraira. Because he used to go to the Prophet ﷺ to learn from him with a kitten in his armpit. So the Prophet called him the father of a kitten because he used to take care of a small cat. So he is famous by this name. Many people have grown up, have got positions being named by their nicknames, not their real names. So it's not uncommon. Ibn Ishaq narrated that Ibn Abbas said, the man who took Yusuf to Egypt was called Malik, as we said, bin Za'ar, bin Nuwat, bin Madian, bin Ibrahim, and Allah knows the best. The source is Qisas al-Anbiya. On the other hand, Ibn Ishaq narrated from Abu Ubaidah that Ibn Mas'ud said, the smartest and most ingenious people are three. So the smartest and most ingenious people, according to Abu Ubaidah, according to Ibn Mas'ud. Does anyone know anything about Ibn Mas'ud? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Does anyone know anything about him? He's among the bona fide companions of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Does anyone know even one fact about him? Just one thing. Yes, Hudayfa?
Once the Prophet's companions laughed at him because of his tiny legs.
Yeah, because his legs were tiny. So the Prophet castigated them that his legs might be tiny, but in front of Allah, they are heavier than the mountain of Uhud. So actually, the Prophet ﷺ was teaching his companions not to laugh at the stature of or the appearance of anyone. We don't choose how we look. Allah created us in that way, because if you laugh at someone because of how he looks, because of his gender, because of how he was created, you are actually implicitly telling Allah that Allah doesn't know how to create, because this person didn't choose his figure, didn't choose his color, didn't choose his gender, among others. So the Prophet taught them a lesson. So Ibn Mas'ud says, the smartest and most ingenious people are three. The Egyptian high minister who bought Yusuf, when he instructed his wife, tend to his dwelling graciously. So he was very smart. And actually what he means by smart here and ingenious, it's to be skillful, to take care of a person from whom you know you will reap a lot of benefits. So you don't have any, you don't mistreat him because you're jealous of him, but you want to take care of him because you are expecting a lot of benefits from this person. So that was one of the three smartest people according to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And the second one was the young lady who said to her father about Musa, Ya abati ista'jir, inna khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiyul amin. My dear father, hire him. Indeed, the best man you could hire is one like him who is strong and trustworthy. Can anyone tell us something in brief about this issue? So this lady, Musa alayhi salam helped her. He did something for her. She appreciated it. She went and told her father the whole story, what he did, and she recommended him, Musa alayhi salam, to go and serve her father. And actually, finally, Musa ended up marrying her. Can anyone tell us something about this young lady? Yes, sister?
She go to withdraw water, and then Musa alayhi salam held it and carried it behind her.
So actually, there were two with her sister. They had a flock of sheep. They wanted to water them. And the well was crowded by the men. They wanted the men to finish first, and then so that they would go. So Musa sympathized with them and helped them to water their sheep. Any other thing that we can talk about her, this young lady? Yes, Hudayfa?
And also when she told Musa alayhi salam to come and meet my father, on the way Musa alayhi salam was walking in front.
So Musa was walking in front of her, and she was guiding him by some signs to show the way. So he didn't walk behind her. And actually, you would agree with me, the men, that ladies don't like a man to walk behind them. Yes. If you're walking with a lady, if you are a man, You walk in front of her. You don't walk behind her for so many reasons. And it has been proven even psychologically. Not only ladies, even men. They don't like someone to walk behind them. For example, someone complained to me. He went to a mosque somewhere. I won't mention countries. He was praying, and there were a lot of seats, a lot of chairs. A person could sit somewhere. But a person came and sit immediately behind him when he was praying. So he said he was embarrassed. So when I make sujood, having in mind that someone is behind me, he was not comfortable with that. And this was a man. So women don't like men walking behind them. So Musa, because he had good qualities, he was in the caliber of a president, of a prophet. So he didn't walk behind her. He walked in front of her, not behind her. For all these qualities, and actually he was not talking to her. So until they reached. So like other men, they would say, who are you? Where? We start a conversation, and conversation ends up into other things. So because of the qualities that she saw in him, she recommended him to her father. Now there is something that we learn from here. Actually, we will be talking about Musa alayhi salam, but quickly, what do we learn, or why do you think Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said among the smartest people of this young lady who recommended Musa to her father because of his qualities? What do we learn from this? Especially, I could say, those who are in HR, human resource. Yes, sister?
Okay, yes. Good. I mean, I have an HR, and we should work with those who have the abilities.
Who have the abilities.
The honesty and the competent to do the job.
Yes, yeah.
Not because of their looks or their family.
That's right. Yeah, so she was looking for the skills, for the qualities of a suitable person who could serve her father. And these qualities were in Musa. And she told him because he's strong and trustworthy. So you can trust him with your wealth, you can trust him with your daughters, and he's strong. He can do whatever you want him to do. So she recommended him based on his qualities, based on his skills, not based on his looks. And actually, if we follow this method, we will be advanced. But if we neglect it, we will always we will always lag behind. There's another thing here that we learn from this. So choose a person based on his qualities, based on his skills. What else? There is something that we learn here. Yes. Honesty. So Musa alayhi salam was honest, and she was also honest. There is also another thing. Yes, sister? Strength. Yes, strength is very important. The Prophet ﷺ says, Al-mu'minu al-qawiyyu khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-dha'if. A strong believer, strong in all aspects. Mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, among others. But he says, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ. Even if you are weak, there is khair in you, there is goodness in you. Yes, Hudayfa?
Someone who's really focused and straightforward in whatever he's doing.
Yeah, so it means the young lady was focusing on the skills. She wanted to help her father. She didn't say, I am just a daughter, it's not my concern. My father will look for someone to serve him. So she was helping her father to find someone who was suitable for the job. So if someone is your father, someone is your relative, and you find something good, or he has a company or an institution, you find someone qualified, it's good that you recommend that person to them. And actually the point that I wanted to mention is that when she recommended Musa alayhi salam to her father, first of all, she had thought about his qualities, about his skills, and also she was thinking about her father, how he was suffering. He didn't have anyone to help her. He was old, and actually some people say, some historians, that he was Shu'aib alayhi salam. So she was concerned about the well-being of her father and about her well-being as well. So she recommended him to her father. Now, there are quotes which I really like, which are connected to this topic. The first one says, God always keeps his promises. God always keeps his promises. 2, my home is in heaven. I am traveling through this world. My home is in heaven. I am just traveling through this world. Don't forget to do good and to share it with those in need. For with such sacrifices, God will be pleased. So if you do good and share the good with those who need it, Allah will be pleased with you. So how are these quotes connected to the story of Yusuf so far? Yes, brother.
So, the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
the dream
Mm-hmm.
of the planets lying down,
Mhm.
that has to be fulfilled.
Mhm.
So these are,
Mhm.
he's being saved from the well,
Mhm.
from harm,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
now he's going into
Mhm.
the elevated
Mhm.
household. So
Mhm.
this is showing the journey of his
Mhm.
transition
Yeah.
to the fulfillment of that
Yeah,
dream.
these are all comforting signs that the dream will be fulfilled. And actually, something that I forgot about this issue of the lady who recommended Musa alayhi salam, it's that when you see something good, when you see someone good qualified, don't feel shy to recommend him. Or if you feel that this person has the qualities of doing the job, or when you want to convince someone to do something, give him reasons. So the lady would have said just employ him, but she gave reasons as to why her father should employ him. What I mean is justification of your suggestions. So if you're suggesting something to your wife, you're suggesting something to your employee, to your son, to any person you're dealing with, give them reasons. Don't just command them, do, because if you give them reasons, you convince them, they will try their best. But if you force them, they will give you what they call malicious obedience. Because you force them to do it, they don't know why they should do it, they do it anyway. Whether it's in a good way or a bad way, because they want to do it, you force them. But if you tell them why, you convince them, they will do their best to achieve the goals. So it's very important if you're dealing with someone is working for you, you're suggesting some things, to tell him the reasons, to convince him. Don't just say, do. And when he asks, you have to do, don't argue with me. No, you have to tell them the reasons why they should do it. So the first one, as we said, the high minister in Egypt, according to Ibn Masud, the smartest people, and this lady, daughter, according to some historians, it was Shuaib, daughter of Shuaib. And the third one was Abu Bakr, when he appointed Umar ibn al-Khattab to succeed him. So Abu Bakr, before he died, he appointed Umar, and no one had an issue with that. All the companions of the Prophet agreed that Umar should be the leader. And actually, was Umar longing for this leadership? You know, after this series of prophets and messages, some of them that we'll be discussing, the second series, the series that will follow will be that of the 5 bona fide companions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Actually, the reason I mentioned 5, we have Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Because of his qualities, because of his steadfastness, because of his achievements. So some scholars call him Al-Khalifatul Khamis, the 5th Caliph. So we will also include him because his story is full of successes, full of lessons from which we can benefit. So how much did the Pharaoh's minister buy him? So we said at first it was a man by the name Malik, and then he sold him to the high minister. So for how much did he sell him to the high minister? It was said that the high minister bought Joseph for 20 dinars. Another opinion is that he paid worth his weight of musk, silk, and silver. So they would weigh Yusuf, how many kilograms he weighed, and that high minister would pay musk, perfumes, silk, and silver according to the weight of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they ended by saying, Allah knows the best. So these details, we don't go through them. These are just opinions, but we focus on the major events from which we can benefit a lot of lessons. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. So what does it exactly mean? وَكَذَلِكَ, the translation is, and thus did we establish Yusuf in the land. So imagine someone who wanted to get ridden of by his brothers. They ended up selling him. He becomes a slave. He goes to a high minister's palace or house or whatever, and then he becomes a high minister himself after suffering a lot. But he didn't flinch. He didn't lose hope because he was still keeping in mind the dream. And actually we said before, when someone comes to you, especially your son, relating his dream to him, don't castigate him. Give them hope because words are very important. When we read psychology, we hear people say that, when I was a student, one of the reasons why I excelled in my performance is what my teacher told me. She said, you can excel. You are a superb student. She gave him hope. Others, when they do mistake once and twice, the teachers would always always discourage them. You can't make it. You are stupid. You will fail. Such words are not accepted. in psychology and from the Islamic perspective. So scholars and exegetes have given the following interpretations to the verse. The first says, and thus did we establish Yusuf in the land. One is, it means we softened the heart of the high minister as well as his wife's heart to provide Yusuf with a decent dwelling place, accommodation in their house, thus granting him a place of firm footing and support. So this is a person who is in the house of a high minister. The high minister likes him, his wife likes him, so from here he will get support. And he will learn a lot, because in the future he is going to be a high minister as well. So he will be observing how this high minister is executing his duties. So there is wisdom in everything, and actually there is a lesson for us all, that when you suffer, you have to learn lessons. Instead of complaining, instead of grieving, learn lessons even in your suffering. These lessons will help you in the future, whether they are positive or negative. If they are negative, you will learn to avoid them. If they are positive, you will reinforce them in the future. So one of the interpretation is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it so happen that Yusuf ends up being a slave in the high minister's house, and softened his heart because he wanted Yusuf to be well established in knowledge and established in the way he grew up, eating nutritious food, having good accommodation, learning from the high minister, how he was dealing with delegations, how he was dealing with the people. So when he comes to that position, he has knowledge. Salama narrated, another interpreter of the Quran, narrated that Ibn Ishaq told him, after Itfir, the high minister, some of them said Qatfir, some of them said Itfir, the high minister had died, the king of Egypt, Ar-Rayyan ibn al-Walid, married off his wife to Yusuf. So that high minister's wife, who is called Zaliha, her nickname, and others said she's called Fakka, after her husband died, the king of Egypt married her off to Yusuf alayhi salam. This is according to Ibn Ishaq, one of the most prominent historians in Islam. And actually they say that Zaliha was the king's niece, was a niece to the king of Egypt. She was a daughter of his sister. So when this high minister died, then the king married her off to him. Now, commenting on this, Ibn Ishaq said that they claimed, he went on to say, Ibn Ishaq, that after marrying her, Yusuf told her, isn't this better than what you had desired? Now, these are just snippets of information. We can call them testers to prepare you for the next class. When now Yusuf is well established in the house of the high minister, and his wife, the wife of that high minister, wanted to seduce him to have an affair with him. So, and actually the homework will be, Allah says, she had set her desires on him, and he would have set his desire on her if he didn't see a guiding sign from Allah. So what does it exactly mean? Was Yusuf also interested? Did he have, after she had tried to seduce him, did he also develop some desire for her? And what were the signs that he saw? This will be the class of next week. So this is to prepare you that in the future, Yusuf alayhi salam, according to some historians, after the high minister died, the king married off his wife to him. So according to Ibn Ishaq, he says, after Yusuf had married her, he told her, isn't this better than what you desired? Than what you had wanted to do an extramarital affair with me? Isn't it better that we make it legal? We marry after he had married her, according to some historians. Now, commenting on this, Ibn Ishaq said that her answer, what was her reply? She said, O ye honest and trustworthy man, do not blame me, for I was a beautiful and tender woman, enjoying power and wealth, but my husband was impotent. So your beauty and personality captivated my heart. It's also claimed that when consummating the marriage, Yusuf found her still virgin, and she bore him 2 children, Ephraim and Misha. And the source is there. This is what they say. It isn't in the Quran, it isn't in the Hadith, maybe it's in Israeliyat, but this is what they say. So historians and interpreters of the Quran, they say this is part of the interpretation of the verse, that he entered as a slave, then he would become a high minister, and then marry the the wife of that high minister who had bought him, and he would find her still virgin because the high minister was not performing his matrimonial duties. This verse, according to some other historians, the verse alluded also to the fact that the king of Egypt would appoint him a high minister in charge of provisions as well as commercial deals and transactions. So Allah is telling what will happen in the future, which came to pass. And actually this is now to prepare you for the dramatic events that are going to happen from the next class, when the wife of the high minister tries to have an affair with Yusuf, and Yusuf tries to flee from her. She follows him, she tears his shirt, she bolts all the doors, and then when her husband comes in, she claims that he was the one who wanted to force her into having an affair with her. So we'll be discussing all this. Now again, Allah says, وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ, and that we might teach him of the interpretation of events that dreams foretell. So Yusuf alayhi salam, at first he saw a dream, and during his life he got some problems and tribulations, and he got solutions. He went out of all those problems and tribulations, and Allah now on top of that, he teaches him how to interpret dreams. Now what do we understand from this? So Allah will teach Yusuf the interpretation of dreams. So he first saw a dream, narrated it to his father interpreted it to him, and now after suffering, now he learns also how to interpret dreams. What do we learn from this? Yes, sister?
He will finally tell him that he's becoming a prophet.
So he will finally tell...
God will finally teach him how to figure out his dream that he told his father, that it was 12 stars and 12 planets and one sun, something like that.
Yeah, so the dream will be interpreted in details, and also he will be capable of interpreting the dreams of others. And actually, because of this skill of interpreting dreams, this is why the king wanted Yusuf out of the jail. But Yusuf, as we will see, he refused until his name was cleared. The king said, take him out after he had interpreted his dream. Yusuf said, no, I can't go out of the jail until you appoint a commission of inquiry to search for the reason, to investigate the reasons as to why I was in the prison for the first place. So Yusuf refused to go out of the prison because why? He wanted the king to appoint a commission of inquiry to investigate what were the reasons that put Yusuf into jail. So after the king had agreed to do that, and it was well established that Yusuf was innocent, that a lady just framed him, then Yusuf agreed to go out of the jail. And actually, we will be sharing a lot of lessons that we learned from that. So all this, Allah is preparing Yusuf for something that will happen. And it's a lesson for us. Yes, sister, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to say about the king's dream, about the Sab'a Baratin Ajab, that's for Yusuf. I wanted to say it.
Yeah, okay. The 7 fat cows and the 7 lean ones. So actually this dream will be seen by the king. Yusuf will interpret it as we will see in the future. And this will be one of the reasons why the king will be curious to take Yusuf out of the jail. But Yusuf will refuse. So Allah will teach him, and the interpretation of the dreams will be the reason for him to go out of jail. Now there is something we learn here. So Yusuf at first saw a dream. He narrated it to his father. His father interpreted it. So Yusuf went through a lot of difficulties. And now, again, he interprets the dream for the king, and it becomes the reason for him to be released from jail. What do we learn from this? And actually, we'll talk in detail when we reach that point of the dream. But what do we learn? Quickly. Yes, sister?
When prophets have dreams, they're not just dreams.
Yeah, actually, as we said before, dreams of prophets and messages are a reality, and actually they are a source of legislation. So if a prophet sees a dream, and the dream says your people have to do this and that, it becomes a source of legislation. It's the dream of prophets is true. What else? What do you learn from this? Yusuf saw a dream, and Allah teaches him how to interpret dreams, and then the interpretation of the dream becomes one of the factors for him to go out of jail. What do you learn from this? Yes, brother?
We want to establish the truth.
To establish the truth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show the people that Yusuf was innocent for what they accused him of. What else do we benefit from this?
Good dreams from Allah.
Mhm. Yes?
Good dreams from Allah.
Yeah, good dreams are from Allah and bad dreams are from the devil, from shaitan. And actually there is a hadith, an authentic hadith from the Prophet, that if you see a bad dream, what should you do? You spit on your left side, dry spit, actually not with your spit or not your saliva, you dry spit on your left side 3 times and you seek refuge in Allah. But the point that I want to emphasize on here is, you know, I did a research when I was at university. My thesis was the system of education in Germany. Do you have anyone from Germany?
I was born in Berlin.
You born in Berlin.
2010.
So I read in books, maybe you can, I haven't been there, but what I read in books, they said, and actually it was a thesis about the system of education in Germany, according to their philosophy, there is no anyone who is stupid unless you are crazy. If you're not crazy, you're not stupid. Now in third world, someone wants his son to be a doctor. He forces him, even if the son doesn't have an inclination to that profession, even if the son doesn't have the skills of being a doctor, just because of prestige, they're forcing him to be a doctor. So the son, when he fails in this field, it becomes a stigma in the society. He's a failure. Now in Germany, what do? They nurture talents. When you're still young in the school, the teacher would be observing who likes to listen to music, who likes to play football, who likes to gossip, so if someone likes music, they take him to a music school. If someone likes football, they take him to a football academy. If someone likes gossiping, they go and train him to be a politician. So in whatever skills you have, they will nurture those skills so that you become a prominent person in that field. So what I would say is they encourage you, they develop the skills, and they give you the tools that will allow you to realize your dreams in the field which you already love. If someone likes to be a tailor, they will take him to a tailoring school. Not like in the third world, you force someone something that he doesn't like. So we can also take a clue from this, from the life of Yusuf. He saw a dream when he was young. And now here, Allah teaches him how to interpret dreams. So he's nurturing the skill that he had begun with at the beginning. So this is something that we can focus on. So if your son, for example, wants to be a lawyer and you're forcing him to be a doctor, help him to be a lawyer. Maybe this will be a way for him to become successful. How many people have we heard they were school droppers? Everyone was laughing at them. They used to like trading. They got just a small training. They joined some courses on business and they became affluent, successful businessmen. So honing someone's skills is very important. We should not neglect the skills and turn our children from one skill to another. And we can get such a clue from the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Any other comments about this? Yeah, any other comments about this issue of nurturing the skills of the people we're working with? Okay, so we continue. So this means that Allah would endow him, Yusuf alayhi salam, with the understanding of the events that dreams will foretell, then interpret them correctly. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. For Allah has full power and control of his affairs. So Allah has a plan, and his plan has to pass, no matter what happens. So you might be suffering today, but this suffering is a catalyst for your success. There is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about that if Allah wants someone to be successful, He makes him suffer from tribulations. After that, he will learn lessons, he will be confident, and actually, when Allah gives him success, he will enjoy it more after going through the trouble. So also the verse means that when Yusuf wants to make something, when Allah wants to make something happen, He creates all the conducive means and circumstances for it, and then guides people towards achieving it. So Allah wants something to happen, He will create some conducive circumstances for it to happen. So even if we work so hard and it isn't predetermined for us, it won't happen unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has predetermined it for us. But this doesn't mean that we shouldn't work, because working per se is an act of worship. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people do not comprehend this. In other words, most people are unaware of the fact that nothing happens without the will and power of Allah. Everything that happens occurs for a reason, and there is wisdom behind it. So there is wisdom behind what happens. So all this, Yusuf being sold, going to the house of a high minister, being trusted over there, happened before the age of full maturity. And actually it doesn't say what was his age. So he was still young before the age of full maturity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So when he had reached full maturity, we gave him prophetic wisdom and knowledge of Allah, and thus do we reward those who excel in doing good. So all those problems happened before Yusuf reached full maturity. So the verse clearly tells us that all this that happened to Yusuf before, it was before he reached the age of wisdom and full maturity, which is the age of 40. And actually there is a verse about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, there are many opinions, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي. So the translation is, and thus have we enjoined upon every human being to do good to his parents and to treat them well. His mother carried him with hardship and gave birth to him in hardship, and the term of one's bearing and weaning is 13 months. All in all, until at last when one reaches full maturity, reaching 40 years of age. So full maturity according to the Quran is 40 years of age. So all these problems, being in the house of the high minister, the high minister's wife trying to tempt him to have an affair with him, was before the age of full maturity. So that was before the age of 40. Although there are some opinions, for example, Malik, Rabi'a, Zayd ibn Aslam, and Ash-Sha'bi, they said full maturity means puberty and sexual maturity. Sa'id ibn Jubair said full maturity means to attain the age of 18. On the other hand, Al-Dhahak maintained that full maturity can be attained at the age of 20. Ikrimah said full maturity could be attained at the age of 25. As-Sudi opined that it could be reached at the age of 30. However, Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, and Qatada said full maturity is attained by reaching the age of 33. And Al-Hasan al-Basri said 40 years. So according to Ibn Kathir, the most credible opinion is that full maturity is attained at the age of 40. This is the age when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was appointed as messenger, and probably this is the age when Yusuf ﷺ was appointed as a prophet. So the ayah says, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَبَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً, until at last when one reaches full maturity, reaching 40 years of age. So this is the age of maturity according to this verse. According to this verse. So I have some quotes here, which I like, and they are connected to the lesson. Man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. Man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. 2, you are always responsible for how you act. No matter how you feel, remember that. You know, in psychology, there is what they call stimulus and response. So someone insults you, someone tongue lashes you, someone mistreats you. This is a stimulus. So the response depends on you. You cannot control the stimulus, but you can control your response. How do you respond? Do you react in the same way? Do you control yourself, or do you treat him better? So Yusuf alayhi salam was not reacting negatively to all these events. He was always calm and considerate because he was confident that the promise of Allah will come to pass. So as I said, this is to prepare you for the next class, which we will be discussing dramatic events in the life of Yusuf alayhi salam. So I will end with this ayah, with these 2 slides, and actually in it there is homework. Allah says, وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابَ وَقَالَتْ هَيْتَ لَكَ قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون ولقد همت به وهم بها لولا أن رأى برهان ربه كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء إنه من عبادنا المخلصين. So the translation is, now she in whose house he was serving solicited him, Yusuf, to have an affair with him. Thus she bolted the doors and said, "Here I am for you." He said, "Allah is my refuge. I will not betray the high minister. Indeed, he is my Lord. He is my Lord who has made excellent my dwelling, and never shall the impious wrongdoers succeed." And very truly she had firmly set her desire on him, and he too would have set his desire on her had he not seen a guiding proof from his Lord. So the homework is, what does it mean? He too, Yusuf, would have set his desire on her. So did she try to tempt him, soliciting him to have an affair with him, and somehow in his heart he had a feeling towards her, and then Allah guided him? So what happened exactly? And what was the proof that he saw? This is the homework that you will go and research and share with us tomorrow. Because actually there are a lot of misinterpretations of this verse, which are not suitable for a person in the caliber of Yusuf. For example, some interpreters of the Quran, they said that she was able to convince him, and when he was trying to commit the sin, he saw a sign, which is not true. Actually, he was trying to flee from her, running away from her, and she was pulling him from behind until she tore his shirt. So how could he, in a position of being with her, yet he was trying to flee from her? So when you read books, you will find a lot of inconsistencies with regard to this verse or with regard to this story. So this will be the homework that will prepare us for the class next week, when she tried to force him to have an extramarital affair with her, something which is haram. You know, prophets and messengers, their lives are clean. No any scandals, like the scandals we hear about some people nowadays, the Me Too campaign, for example, enveloping some of the most prominent figures. The prophets were immune to such scandals. For example, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he was young, he was tending to some sheep and goats, and he heard some people singing. There was a wedding. He went there. Does anyone know what happens when he reached there? He fell asleep, right? When they were rebuilding the Kaaba, some people, they used to wear loincloth, which is izar, just covering their waist and up to beneath the knees. So some people, when they were carrying the adobe blocks and the stones to rebuild the Kaaba, they would roll up their loincloths in order to protect their shoulders from the dust, and their thighs would be laid bare, so people could see the thighs. The Prophet wanted to do that. What happened? And actually someone had advised him to do that because he was helping them to carry the stones. That also, bring your loincloth, keep it on your shoulder to protect you from the dust. What happened? Yes, brother.
He asked each group to present each person.
Yeah, you know, I know. I mean, when he was trying to roll up his loincloth to protect his shoulder from the dust of the stones. So what happened to him? Does anyone know what happened? So he fell down, he fainted and saying, "Izari, Izari." So this was to protect him from any scandal, because he had a lot of enemies who would seek to discredit him. So their biographies were clean, prophets and messengers. So in no way could Yusuf have connived with the lady, or could he have fallen prey to the temptations of the lady. Yes, brother.
A key insight into the story of the Prophet on many occasions, and Sayyidina Yusuf, was that they created a human being, right? With the desires and the inclinations of human beings. But it's Allah that protects them from executing the desires. Right?
Yeah, that's also an opinion that we'll be discussing in depth. That's a good opinion. Yeah, we'll be discussing it next week. So inshallah, I hope you remember that. You remind us next week when we begin. What else? Yeah, this is a good insight. Any other comments about this issue? So next week, we're going to begin with this question of what did Yusuf see, and what does it mean that he too would have set his desire on her had he not seen a guiding sign from his Lord. And what was that sign that he saw? What did he see? So this is what we'll be discussing, inshallah, next week. So I hope you all attend. So any questions and comments so far? Any questions and comments? Actually, from next week, the most dramatic events in the life of Yusuf are going to happen. And actually this was just a preparation for the next week, to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a purpose in everything that happens. But there is a quote here that I would like us to, before we leave, that I would like us to discuss for a few minutes. Man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. Man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. You know, one of the benefits of Ramadan, and Ramadan is coming, is to learn to appreciate the blessings of Allah. So when you stay, for example, in summer, you become dehydrated during the day. You see the water appears, it appears to you that when you drink it, it will taste differently. So we are learning how to appreciate the blessings and bounties that we always take for granted. So this Ramadan, one of the lessons that we learn is to appreciate the blessings of Allah. So without difficulty, you could take the blessings for granted. Because it's normal, you get it, no, it's easy to get it. But when you go through difficulties and then you get the blessings, you'll appreciate them more. And to appreciate them more, you're getting rewards because you're praying to Allah, you're thanking Allah, so you're getting more rewards. So the problems that you suffer are a source for you to get rewards in different ways depending on how you react to those problems. What else? What else do we learn from this quote? Man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. So you learn lessons from the difficulties. And actually the lessons that you learn when you suffer from difficulties, you will share them with others to make their life, to give them a shortcut of life. And by sharing them with others, you're getting rewards from Allah. What else? So Allah wants you to learn lessons in the hard way so that you implement them, they shape your personality, and then you share them with others and get rewards. So you get rewards by being patient, you get rewards by hoping that Allah will help you, you get rewards by coming closer to Allah, you get rewards by beseeching Allah, you get rewards by sharing these difficulties, these lessons with others. So when you're suffering, there are a lot of ways from which you can get rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what else? Commenting on this quote.
Maybe it gives you time to give you some solutions for your problem.
Yeah.
Just be patient.
So you be patient and think about solutions rather than thinking about problems per se.
Be negative
So
right away. I have this problem.
yeah, so
And
don't be
time
negative,
and,
be positive. So by time you'll get solutions, and when you get solutions, it will give you confidence. And in any situation you will be in, you will be confident that you will get solutions to the problem. And this is good for your growth. It's good also for your well-being, for your spiritual enlightenment. It's good in different ways to always be positive and to have confidence that whatever problems I have, I will find solutions. And this brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What else? Because only Allah can save you, no one else. Yes.
You must say true, if it is bitter.
You must say the truth even if it's bitter. So when you're suffering, you learn to tell the truth. What else is
Yes, also it said in Surah Al-Isra, and with difficulties or hardship, there come ease.
Yeah, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. After hardship there is ease. So you learn that solutions are coming. But the problem is if you lose hope and you start disbelieving in Allah, you start questioning Allah, and actually there is a problem. I have heard a lot of people, even those who worship Allah, even those who beseech Allah to solve their problems, they reach a point where someone would say, why is it still happening to me? I have been praying to Allah, I have been worshipping Allah, why do I still suffer? Don't say that. Don't say that. Stay positive. Even if you beseech Allah, you pray, it does not benefit Allah in any way. It's just beneficial to you. So do not lose hope and do not say such statements, because such statements may make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stop helping you, doubting the ability and the desire of Allah to help you. This is very bad. What else? We need difficulties. Man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. What else can we say about this quote? You know the feeling that you get when you are suffering? and then you manage to get solutions to the problems, and you become the victorious in the end. Yes.
When you lose hope.
Yeah.
This is when you lose hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, when you lose hope, it's very bad to lose hope. A Muslim should not lose hope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Al-Hadith Al-Qudsi, He says, "Ana inda dhanni abdi bi." So, I will come to your rescue. I will respond to your pleas, to your calls, to your supplications, depending on how you think of me. So if you are positive that Allah will help you, He will. If you have some doubts, then how can Allah help you? So it begins here. Be confident. So with this confidence, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you. Confidence, working hard, depending on Allah. And actually, this is what we will see in the life of Yusuf alayhi salam. Full of lessons. And finally, he emerged victorious, and he did not bear grudges with his brothers who wanted to get rid of him. He would have revenge, but he never, because there is a quote that says, strong people never revenge. Strong people never revenge. So, any comments, any questions? Okay, see you inshallah on Monday. We are still on Surah Al-Talaq. Jazakumullah khair.
Then said to